one of my videos that was asking my opinion of hiking boots versus trail runners and whether or not there was a consensus on which one was better. And I had to answer that there wasn't exactly a consensus, although the great majority of people go with trail runners when they're doing a through hike. There are still quite a few people who love hiking boots, your traditional big heavy hiking boot. In fact, I hit the Canadian border with a guy who was wearing big heavy hiking boots, some Vask boots, and he had worn the same pair all the way from Idlewild to Canada. And I mean, they were kind of falling apart at that point, but still, they had made it that far, whereas I had had to replace my trail runners 4 times. So I'm gonna give you guys the pros and cons for both, because there is a place for both of these in the world of backpacking and hiking. And hopefully you'll be able to make a decision for yourself, because it is down to personal preference and what kind of trip you're going to be going on. So let's start with the hiking boots. Now these are Loa Renegades. They are very solid, very heavy. They're leather and Gore-Tex. They are damn near indestructible. They're really good boots, and they are very comfortable. Now, with hiking boots, like I said, there's going to be pros and cons. So with hiking boots, some of the pros are they're very durable. They will last you a very long time. As I've said, I've done plenty of overnighters. These are the boots that I learned how to backpack in. Plenty of overnighters, plenty of day hikes, plenty of everything in them, and the tread looks pretty much the way it did when I bought the shoes. The outside, there's no holes, there's no fraying, there's nothing. They're really, really heavy duty. They're thick and they're heavy. So durability is a huge plus when it comes to hiking boots. They will last you years and years. They'll last you, they'll last you a lot of miles. So that's an advantage. Supportive. They are very supportive. They kind of lock your foot in one position. They lock your ankle in one position, which we'll get into why that's not necessarily a good thing all the time. But if you're doing snow travel, if you're doing off-trail travel, you're doing a lot of bushwhacking, that's not such a bad thing. They're really rigid too, so they're not going to flex. Your foot's not going to bend around things. And again, this is great for snow travel, for when you have to kick step in snow. And when you're going through uneven terrain, you're going off trail, you really have to be kind of stomping through the bush. Boots are great. Also, if you're carrying a really, really immensely heavy load, 80, 90, 100 pounds, whatever. Don't know exactly why you'd need to be carrying that much, but if you are, boots might be what you want, as they have a lot of ankle support. They lock everything in place. The chances of you smashing your foot on a sharp rock are very low. These have a full-length steel shank, so there is a steel plate that goes all the way through the shoe. And these are, for the most part, waterproof on the outside. So you can splash through a puddle and not have to worry about your foot getting wet. So those are the pros, so let's get on to the cons. They are heavy. They are very, very heavy. These weigh, I don't know the exact weight. I'm definitely not a ground counter. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. I don't know the weights of really anything. I just kind of know, is it heavy? Yeah? All right. Or is it really light? Cool. So this is very, very heavy. And I know the military did a study. You can look up the specifics of it, but I know the military did a study on what the stress on your body is when you've got weight strapped to your feet, and what the equivalent weight of that is. And I believe it's something like 1 pound on your foot is the equivalent of 4 pounds on your back in terms of stress on your joints, your body, everything. Again, I don't know that for sure. I don't know if that's if those are the specifics, but you can look that up yourself. So they're very heavy, and that's not a great thing. They are not breathable at all. I don't care if it's Gore-Tex. I had somebody at an REI try and talk me out of trail runners. This was just a customer because, oh no, you need the Gore-Tex version because it's waterproof, but it's breathable. No, I've done a lot of backpacking. I've done a lot of hiking in wet conditions. I've done hiking in the rain. I've stepped in puddles. I've walked through streams. I know. And Gore-Tex on a shoe does not really work all that well. I guess it's better than nothing, but it does not solve the problem. So if you have one of these shoes, it is not breathable. Moisture is not going to escape through the shoe. You're not gonna, sweat in the shoe or get a bunch of water in the top, and then 10 minutes later it's going to be dry. No, that's going to be wet for a couple of days. So that kind of dovetails into the fact that it's slow drying. When you do get them wet, they will be wet for a long time. There's nothing you can do about it. You just have to let them dry. And sometimes you can't let them dry when you're in really humid conditions, when you're in conditions like northern Washington, where it's just everything is wet all the time. You're walking in a cloud. Nothing will dry. Even if it's not actively raining, the humidity is so high, there's so much moisture in the air that nothing is going to dry at all. So you just expect you're going to have soggy trench foot, in boots like this. They also have a very long break-in period, meaning when you buy them, you are going to have to wear them in so that they're comfortable on your foot and they don't give you blisters. It's not fun. And if you're ever in a situation like you're on trail, you're doing a long through hike, you're on trail, and you have to replace your shoe quickly, well, you have to break it in on trail, so you're just going to have to suffer for a week or so. And eventually, yeah, it'll break in and it'll feel like a glove on your foot, but there is a long break-in period. Okay, rigidity. Now, I said this was a pro, and it is for snow, but it's bad for everything else. When you're on fairly well-groomed trail, or you're on anything that's fairly well-maintained, like in my case, the PCT, you don't really want something rigid. You want something flexible so that if you step on a small bump, you step on a rock or something, you want your foot to be able to kind of flex around it, and that absorbs some of the impact. It keeps you from falling over, and this gets into the ankle support too. A lot of people, you need boots with ankle support when you're backpacking. I'm not a big fan of that. I don't really fall into the camp of lots and lots of support. In fact, I'm in the camp of as little support as possible, because our bodies are meant to be on trails, in nature. We're meant to be walking on rocks in this varied surface. That's what we're designed for. And our ankle is meant to absorb shock and to flex, to go side to side. When we step on something uneven, it's meant to turn. And the reason why I think that we need that versus the rigid locked-in ankle support is if you step on something uneven and you go over, some part of your body is going to have to absorb that shock, that stress. And that's either going to be your ankle, which is meant for that. It's meant to turn that way. And as long as it's strong enough, you shouldn't get hurt. Strong and flexible enough, you shouldn't get hurt. It's either your ankle, but if your ankle's locked into a boot like this, that stress is going to go up to your knee. And then your knee is going to have to try and turn. If your knee can't turn, your hip is going to go over. And if that can't turn, you're just going to fall over. So you need to be able to absorb that impact, absorb that stress, that torque. And if you can't do it, there's going to be a problem. You could really hurt yourself. So in my opinion, when it comes to ankle support, I say just make your ankles stronger, work them out, exercise, go running, go walking, put on a heavy pack, or put on any pack, and just go for a walk. Maybe walk on some uneven surfaces. Give your ankle a chance to build up some strength. Go on a day hike in some trail runners, and eventually you will be comfortable enough. And I didn't, thankfully I was born with pretty strong ankles, inherited pretty strong ankles from my father, but I inherited really bad knees. So I have to be really careful about what kind of torque is going up to my knee. And thankfully, because of the strong ankles, I can wear shoes with less ankle rigidity, which means that my ankle can absorb that torque. All right, but like I said, let me get back to, I'm not hating on these. I don't just think they're terrible. They do have a place. If you have a really heavy pack, you're going through lots and lots of snow, or bushwhacking off trail, then I think that these might be a good option for you. Just remember that they don't dry, they won't breathe, so blisters are going to be a problem for you. And because of all the ankle support, you risk some of that torque going up to your knee. All right, so let's move on over to the trail runners. Now, trail runners are what I wore for the entire PCT. These are Ultra Lone Peaks. These are actually a pair that I think these are my Oregon pair, possibly. I think so. They don't look as muddy as my Washington pair, so I actually sent these home because after about 400 miles, they still have some life left in them. So they're kind of beat around shoes, day hiking shoes for me now. But like I said, ultra lone peaks, and the pros for trail runners are they are breathable, meaning if your foot is sweating or if you step in water, they will dry out pretty quickly. Moisture will move through them fairly freely. Now, this is kind of a relative term, breathability and quick drying. I'm talking kind of relatively. This particular style, this particular model of shoe is actually not the most breathable and quick drying trail runner I've ever seen or have ever even worn myself. It was one of the dings I had to give it, one of the things I didn't like about it. If I stepped in a stream or something, I knew that these were going to soak up. They kind of acted like sponges. I knew they were going to soak up water and they were going to stay wet for about a day. But then after that, they dried out. It was okay. They were reasonably breathable in terms of moisture passing from my foot out of the shoe. They didn't trap all that in. I could feel the breeze on my foot a little bit, but because it is a sponge, if you really did step in a puddle of water, you were going to suffer for about a day. So yeah, breathability, quick drying, they're flexible. They're very flexible. So if you step on a sharp rock, an uneven surface, a log or something, they will bend around it, again, absorbing some of that shock. Again, your foot will get strong. Your foot, your ankle, everything will strengthen up over time and be able to take that. It's not gonna jam through the shoe and give you a horrible bruise or anything like that, as long as you're relatively careful. Because there is a rock plate that goes through the shoe. Not as heavy duty as the steel shank in those, but it is there. But I like the flexibility of the shoe. It just makes it a little more comfortable. It makes it, in my opinion, a little bit safer for my knees, and just feels more natural. Feels like I'm barefoot. And they're a lot lighter. They are much, much, much lighter. So again, getting back to that military study of whatever the numbers are, it's 1 pound to 4 pounds, whatever it is, they are much lighter, so you don't feel the weight swinging on your legs every time you step. There is no break-in period on trail runners, not really anyway. If there is a break-in period, it's so small that you don't even notice it. So right out of the box, they should be comfortable. If you have the right shoe, the right fit for you, they should be comfortable right out of the box. Okay, but it is not all puppy dogs and sunshine for trail runners. There are some cons. They are not nearly as durable as the hiking boots. So if you are really concerned about spending a lot of money on your footwear, hiking boots may be a better choice for you because they will last a lot longer. They're kind of expensive. I think these were $200, but these were about $125, so not a huge difference in price, but I had to replace these 4 times on the PCT. Then that means they were worn out. Granted, these, I had a pair ready to go for Washington, so I probably could have worn these maybe another 100 miles, but then they would have been gone. Because there are some, I don't know if you can see it, but there are some holes starting to fray in the sides, and the tread is starting to shred on the bottom, but they are still very wearable. But like I said, not as durable as the hiking boots. Now, because they are so flexible, again, this gets in, there are things about both shoes that are pros and cons for the shoe. They are very flexible, which is great for on-trail hiking. That makes it really bad for snow travel. They are terrible for kick-stepping in snow. When you're trying to kind of slice your foot into the side of a snowbank so you don't go sliding down, it's so flexible that it's just like kicking the wall of snow with your bare foot. There's no rigidity there to cut through the snow, and that can make it hurt a little bit when you're dealing with snow. But other than that, they're pretty good. So in my opinion, for through hiking on well-maintained trails, I would go with trail runners. But as I said before, there is a place for hiking boots as well. They're not obsolete. Alright, so that is going to be it for this video. If you have any questions, any comments, put them in the comments down below. If there's anything you would like me to review, any particular style of gear, or why I feel one way versus another, my opinion on different styles of, let's say, water filters, or in this case it was trail runners versus boots, or anything like that, put it in the comments below. I'll be happy to make a video on it. And yeah, so hopefully this was helpful to everybody, and hope you guys have a good one. Bye-bye. Hey guys, so I got a comment on one of my videos that was asking my opinion of hiking boots versus trail runners, and whether or not there was a consensus on which one was better. And I had to answer that there wasn't exactly a consensus, although the great majority of people go with trail runners when they're doing a through hike. There are still quite a few people who love hiking boots, your traditional big heavy hiking boot. In fact, I hit the Canadian border with a guy who was wearing big heavy hiking boots, some Vask boots, and he had worn the same pair all the way from Idlewild to Canada. And I mean, they were kind of falling apart at that point, but still, they had made it that far, whereas I had had to replace my trail runners 4 times. So I'm gonna give you guys the pros and cons for both, because there is a place for both of these in the world of backpacking and hiking. And hopefully you'll be able to make a decision for yourself, because it is down to personal preference and what kind of trip you're going to be going on. So let's start with the hiking boots. Now these are Loa Renegades. They are very solid, very heavy. They're leather and Gore-Tex. They are damn near indestructible. They're really good boots, and they are very comfortable. Now, with hiking boots, like I said, there's going to be pros and cons. So with hiking boots, some of the pros are they're very durable.